Hello. I know it's been a few days since I've posted a video, and that's because it's not because I didn't make them, but I made them and I had my sound turned off. So they didn't have any sound. So I have to remake all of those, and I'll start trying to do a better job of that. Uh, the first one that I want to make today is comes from a YouTube fellow who did. He had it titled "52 Churches in 52 Weeks," and he was going around the country, going to different churches and seeing what they believed and why they believed it. And he did this for actually 2 years. He did the first year, and he got to thinking, I've missed some churches because people asked him if he had gone to various churches, and he hadn't, and so he did another year of it. In that second year of doing those was the first time that he had gone to meet with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is also known as the Mormon Church. Mormon is a nickname because Mormon was an ancient prophet in the Book of Mormon. He went to several different churches, and he was invited to go to one of our temple open houses. He went to the Manti open house that had just closed. The Manti temple was built back in the 1800s, and they just refurbished it and restored it. And so he had gone to that open house. And one of the things that he said he discovered when he went to a regular ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is that how friendly the people were and how giving they were and how much they wanted to help. And so he was impressed by that. And then he went to the Mormon Temple Open House. Now, those of you looking at this video, there will be open houses around the country all the time. There will be one next year in Grand Junction. There's one going on in Utah at the moment, but they have 180 some temples around the world. And so, and in the temple, he was curious as he went in. The temple is not a regular house of worship. It's a specialized house of worship where we make covenants with our Father in heaven, and we baptize for the dead. And if you look for any truth, you will find it. Anyway, it was interesting that after 2 years of going around to these places, he wound up joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints about a month ago now. And I wanted to share with you my experience because if you'll remember in some of my videos, I was paying my way through college, both hauling hay and riding bulls and barebacks in rodeos. And so that every weekend almost, I'm in a different town to compete in a rodeo. And so I had a circumstance happen to me. I was raised in Oklahoma, and and was active in a religion there, the Southern Baptist Church, good bunch of people. But I had an instance happen that caused me to question religion as a whole. And I got back to college that fall, and I decided I didn't need religion. And my roommate, who was a self-professed atheist, he wasn't really, but he loved to argue that point. And so in a dorm room one night, we were visiting. There were 4 or 5 of us in there, and I hadn't been to church in 3 months, and I decided I didn't need religion, but I was questioning that because man does need some guidance sometimes in some of the decisions he makes and the things he wants to do. And in this discussion in the dorm room, uh, my roommate said, well, says, if there's no God, you can just go do anything you want to do. And when you die, for you, it's all gone. And another of the fellows says, yeah, but you still leave memories in the minds of people that you left behind. Well, I grew up in Newcastle, Oklahoma, and the Wynn name there is a privilege to have. And I believe in and like the respect that the community had for the Wynn family. And I thought, leaving a good memory in people's names was not a bad thing. So if there was no God and you lived a good life and you left, you did leave some of those memories to those people. But if you go out and you do all the wild things that you can do and you die and there is a God, you're in a world of hurt. Well, and if you live a good life, then you have one leg up on the hereafter. And I decided then that maybe man did really need religion. And I had gone so far as to say, is there a God? Am I going to accept the fact that there is a God? Well, I look around this world that we live in, the beautiful mountains, everything that's growing, the animals that we deal with. And I decided there had to have been a supreme being that put all of this together originally. And so I said, all right, I will accept the fact that there's a supreme being and I will call him God. If I accept that, then I need to accept the Old Testament because the Old Testament is God's dealings with the tribe of Judah. If I accept the Old Testament, then I have to accept Jehovah, which is another name for Jesus Christ. Because the Old Testament talks about Jehovah and God and Jehovah's relationship. If I accept that, I have to accept the New Testament. Because in the New Testament is Christ's dealings again with the tribe of Judah. If you accept that, then you have to accept the fact that Jesus designed and put together a church for people to have religion. And that had certain characteristics. And so I'm not a scriptorian, but I studied the scriptures enough to determine that the Lord's church would have certain characteristics. It would have people who led the church, that it would be a church of order. He had 12 apostles, and he didn't pay the people any. One of the things that had always bothered me as I was growing up, that a man could work an hour and a half or 2 hours a week and make a good living. Now, I know preachers do more than that, and they do a lot of good. All churches do a lot of good. But I hadn't found one that I was looking for one that I thought that the Lord approved of. Well, with me rodeoing and off in a different town every week, I would put on church clothes on Sunday morning, and I'd drive around town. And when I saw people going into a church house, I'd get out and go in with them. Being a poor college student, and I was poor, I didn't have much money, I could usually finagle a luncheon invitation with somebody from that church and go home with them and eat lunch, and I'd ask them what they believed. And if I liked what they believed, then I'd search out that church in the next town. But it was interesting. They kept telling me these things the church was doing, and I would ask, but why? Is the Lord directed that? Say, oh, you just have to accept that on faith. I've never been very good at just accepting those kind of things. And what I was looking for was a church that had a really strong youth program. I wanted to be able to dance. I thought dancing was a really good, wholesome activity. I wanted them to have the family at the center of their church beings. And so I was looking for this church that had family oriented and really supported the youth, and consequently supported the rest of the people who were going to church. Well, I did this for 3 years, and I came to the conclusion after 3 years that the Lord didn't sanction any of them 100%. They all do good. They all draw near unto the Lord with their mouth. And there's a scripture somewhere that says they draw near unto me with their mouth, but their hearts are far from me. Because everybody, I don't care who you are or what church you belong to, there are difficulties. but I couldn't be comfortable with a church that I hadn't found one that I was really comfortable with. But man still needed religion. And so I looked for a church that had a good youth program and was family oriented, and all of them had paid ministries, which Christ didn't have in his church. And so I finally found a church that I was going to church every Sunday, and or most Sundays, and was comfortable because they were doing good for the people who belonged to their church. And I met my wife, Kamari, my wife to be. I asked her to marry me, and I told her when I did that I would go to church with her, and she could go to church with me, but we would get married before we would join a religion, a common religion, before we got married, because by religion marriages do not work very well. The next morning, I had two young men show up at my doorstep with name tags on their chest, both of them with the same first name, Elder Farmer, and I can't remember the other one's name now. That was the first one's. And I discovered that they were missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they started giving me the discussions, and they handed me a Book of Mormon. Oh, there's a lot of people that don't like the Book of Mormon, but you know what the Book of Mormon is it's Christ's dealings with the tribe of Joseph. If you'll remember, there are 12 tribes of Israel. I wonder where the other 10 are, because we only know where the tribe of Judah was, and we have their record, and we now have the record of the tribe of Joseph. But there were 10 others. I'm sure that they have some records and that they will be found at some point and brought forward. At least that's prophecy that they will. And as the missionaries gave me the discussions, lo and behold, I found that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had a better youth program than anyone. They really took care of their youth and had a good time with them. And they were totally family oriented. In fact, if some of you like, I would be happy to provide a family proclamation that you can hang on your wall that talks about what families should and how they operate. And they have no paid ministry. The men who serve as leaders in the various wards and branches and up through the church serve at no expense to the church. I have been a bishop a couple of times, a branch president. I've served in a stake presidency, all on what I provided. I didn't pay anything, and so that intrigued me, and I joined the church. I actually joined it for the wrong reason. I joined it because it had the best youth program, and it did the family what I wanted, and it didn't have a paid ministry, and there were a number of other parallels with what the Lord established when he was here first. And I'll share with you in another video of how I changed that to become confident that this is the Lord's church. He stands at the head of it. He directs and guides it through a living prophet, Russell M. Nelson. And there's order in the church and order in the Lord's house. I sincerely believe that and am glad to share it with you. Feel free to make any comments, subscribe and listen. We'll get back to horses starting with the next video.